Alright, so welcome back to Analogue, a Hate Story. Before we go right back into the vlogs we've left off on, I wanted to quick mention, first I apologize for the slow start in the other video. You don't really know what you're getting into when you start the game, so I think going through it block by block is a pretty reasonable way to go through, which is why I did that. But it does mean that you don't immediately jump into the Pale Bride story. Mainly because you don't know she's what you're looking for when you start the game. You kind of get a couple hints, there's something weird in genealogy with her name and all that. There are no logs that mention her by name, so you just kind of have to jump in and start going. This way, we've got some of the background information out of the way, we won't have to worry about it later, and we kind of know what the Kims are talking about when they talk about their rivalry with the Smiths. Which it seems like the Smiths might not care about too much in return, because they got their own problems. But so much drama, so much fun. Secondly, there are 3 paths that the game can take after a certain point. A couple of those paths have different endings within them, but they're just kind of slight differences in the end title card. Or end card, not a title card. What I'll probably do is make a save right where that path split happens, so I can go out into each path. But within them, I'll probably only do one ending and then talk about the others. That way I can go through all 3, and we won't need to re-record stuff that we've already listened to. And you won't need to rehear it. So let's start back up. With that search by ID thing, I didn't mention it before, or I mentioned that it was there, but I didn't explain it. That's what these little numbers are underneath the dates in the logs, and they're also, when I open it, they're in the top right corner. If I put in that code in the search, it will take me directly to that log. Doesn't come up often, is needed at a certain point. But anyways, we'll jump right back into this. Our first log in block 5 is the month of good fortune. It's from Kim Chung-soo, who, if you remember, is kind of like the head of the Kim family at the moment. He's the one who adopted Young Suk and all that. This is in the year 319. It's early in that year. The second month of the 319th year was one of great fortune for the Kim family. While on official business, the captain and Emperor Ryu confided in me that he wished that I had a daughter of marriage age to give to him to take as a second wife. His first wife had been unable to provide a son and was becoming increasingly concerned that she never would. At the start of the month, I had no daughter in my family to give. Only my only son, Young Suk, was still without child. Yet it was a perfect opportunity. This may sound fantastical, but I swear it is true. Passed on through the generations of the main branch of the Kim family is a giant egg, translucent luster, such that one can see the form of a sleeping child inside. She is known as the Pale Bride for the inscription on the egg and was entrusted to our family to be awakened during a time of great prosperity. Yet, as any man knows, prosperity is seized, not waited on. A daughter to provide the emperor with a son would elevate the family above the other noble house once and for all. Considering this, I promised the emperor that I did have a daughter who would soon be of marriage age to present to him, and I smashed the egg such that the Pale Bride, passed with the Kim family for years, could be adopted as my own daughter. She is a strange child, but will make a fine wife for the emperor. What good fortune this means! I'm afraid nearly everything the man wrote was of little value. It all reads like that. Boring, stiff, obnoxiously patriarchal. Are you sure you really want more from Kim Chung-soo? Yes, because we want to read everything we can. If you insist. Very well, I've added the other relevant entries from him. I'll caution you from taking him seriously, though. So that gets us one more log at the end, titled The Bride's Adolescence, from the year 321. We're gonna go through these in order. So next we have Broken Promise from the Pale Bride herself. Same year as the one from Chung-soo, looks like a month later, so not a month, actually, just a couple days. Dear Diary, last week I woke up from cryostasis. Before I went in, Father promised me that when I woke up in the future they'd have medicine again, that I'd finally get better, that I might not see him again, but his descendants would make everything right. But the future broke his promise. I'm scared and confused and I don't know what happened. I think there was a big disaster while I was in stasis or something. Everyone's so uneducated and stupid. Father and Mother were kind of dumb at times, but the guy who woke me up, he might be named Kim, but he's nothing like them. Father was wrong. Nothing's better. The future sucks. It is worth noting when we read through the Pale Bride's diary entries that she is 13. And it reads like it at a couple of times, though I think her sense of writing might have been better than I was at 13, so props for that. The Pale Bride did keep an extensive diary. I'll try to find you some more entries. And this gets us a lot of new logs. We have 4 more entries from the Pale Bride herself, all within that same year, 319. A couple of titles that really don't look that great. We've got Held Prisoner and Straight to Hell. But we'll get to those in a moment. Let's read The Insufferable Child from Young Suk's wife. This is a couple of months after the Pale Bride has been awoken. We'll see how she's settling in. Dearest Mother, do you recall how in my last letter I mentioned the Pale Bride being brought into the household? I take back any kind words I might have said about her. That awful child is nothing but the most insufferable person I have ever met. I just thought I would have had a little more time of peace. With Young Suk's adopted mother visiting her own family, I've been given full responsibility over that miserable child. What happened to my promised domestic bliss? She's in trouble so often one would think she were a boy. She acts like one too. I suppose it can't be helped. She says she lived her first 12 years in the past, and I can see it. She certainly acts as though she's from a less civilized time. Just last night she made a huge scene at dinner time. She kept trying to rudely leave the table in front of Young Suk and father-in-law, loudly insisting that she was too sick to eat. She's said this before, too. I was worried, so I had a doctor examine her. She is, of course, in perfect health. When I asked why she thought otherwise, she started talking about how pale and thin she was. She's not truly unhealthy. All she was doing was rubbing it in that she's far more delicate and beautiful than I. What a cruel little child. Why must she be so spiteful to me? Remember, too, when Young Suk and his wife got married, she was only 15 as well. So we have a couple of teenagers being spiteful in only the way teenagers, when one has power over another, can be. Oh, Do you want more from Kim Young Suk's wife, or do you want the reply from her mother? So we'll get more from the wife. Very well, I can give you a couple from his wife. Here you are. That opens up a couple of logs in one of the other blocks, I believe, so we'll get to those later, but let's go back and see if we can't get the reply. Sorry, I'm afraid I don't have anything. Thank you for giving me the option, then. I can explain why if you want, so we can be like, nah, never mind, or go ahead, which we will. You have to understand something. It's traditional for women's letters to be deleted after being read, so the disk space can be reallocated. Women aren't really supposed to read or write. Certainly the nobles did, it's just the idea that spending time on education got in the way of the important virtues for women, which was serving her husband. So in practice, even if a woman was literate, she could at least excuse it by destroying her words afterwards. It's less pretentious if at least the writing wasn't permanent. Does that all sound reasonable to you? Our options are make sense and that's stupid. Interesting to note here is that this is reversed from the last time we had these kind of two options, commenting on what the Mogul class culture has become, and it did worry me the first time I played through because dialogue wheels are annoying. Sometimes you don't quite know exactly if what that little word is exactly what you're saying, and that's how it will be taken. So I'm gonna go with that stupid, because it does seem a little silly that one gender's is being deleted in preference over another. Because I understand space is going to run short on a ship that's been out there for eons, but so stuff has got to get deleted at some point. But I'm sure they could find a different system to do so. So we'll go with that stupid. Yes. Yes, it is. But that's how it is. But regardless, Kim Young Suk's wife was definitely considered a very virtuous woman, so I have none of the letters she received. So I'm sorry, I can't give you anything there. So the Pale Bride is not settling in well at all. This is kind of interesting, and a lot of her diary entries will continue this theme. We'll see the sort of culture shock that she's going through, because we don't know how long she was in cryostasis, but it's clearly a very long time. We don't quite know, because it mentions later that the time got reset. We honestly have no idea, and never will have any idea how long she was in cryostasis. And clearly it was long enough for a huge culture shift to happen. So her next entry is called Held Prisoner, and it is from August of that same year. Today I was forced to stay at home in the home all day. I didn't get to leave yesterday, or the day before that, or the day before that, or the day before that, or any other day either. I want to write about how much the ship has changed since I was put into stasis, but I can't even see it. I keep asking why I'm being kept prisoner. Nobody will tell me. That woman who keeps bossing me around, she's awful. I'm dying here, I keep telling her. I'm sick. That's why I was safe to begin with. But she won't listen. She just treats me like I'm a stupid kid. I tried to argue with her. Look at how pale I am. Can't you see that I'm sick? I swear I'm not making up what she said in response. Why must you be so rude? It's not polite for a girl to boast about her beauty. Beauty? I tried not to cry in front of her. I've had to do that a lot. I'm not beautiful. I have a compromised immune system, I shouted at her and ran away. I don't remember what she said back. Think about using big words, I think. How stupid is she? She hates me. I don't know why, but she hates me. That's not why I'm not allowed to go visit the ship plaza, though. Chung-Soo, the man who keeps telling me to call him father, said the same thing. He promised me that I would have a chance to leave soon, though. I don't think he was being nice, though. I'll write about him more later. Right now I have to go to bed, or the woman will get mad at me again. I'll just let you keep reading. Please, let me know when you've read all the ones I just gave you. So Hyune doesn't really have anything more to say until we get through all of the Pale Bride's entries. She kind of wants us to read through all of them before she comments on them at all, which is interesting because we've seen on all the others, she's generally had something to say about everything. This one's called Women's Quarters, and it is from early October that year. Dear Diary, I got in trouble today, but for the first time, I think it was my own fault. A little bit at least. I still think sister-in-law was being crazy about it, but I should have known better. Now that I write that, it looks ridiculous. God, what is living with these people doing to me? The computer console in the room doesn't have anything on it. I don't just mean it doesn't have all the cartoons I brought from Earth, or any of my books or anything. I mean, there's literally nothing there for me to entertain myself with. At all. Nothing. So I thought to myself that maybe sister-in-law's might be different and checked it. It wasn't. So instead, I decided to go check in Father's study. Not snooping or anything, just looking on his computer for books. I had a thought that it might be bad, but my real father never would have gotten too upset. What could the harm be? I was in there for maybe 10 minutes, looking for anything that was even written in Korean. There's nothing, by the way. Every single book, symbols that look like Chinese characters. Every single one. I think that maybe something terrible happened in the past that made all the computer data get deleted, and everyone forgot how to read Korean. They got really stupid about things. I don't think I'll ever find out why. It just sucks. Anyway, I was only in there for 10 minutes, searching through the console, when Young-suk walked in. I thought he was gonna get really angry, but actually, he just acted like he was really scared. He did scold me when he dragged me out. He just looked really worried. I only got in trouble when he brought me back to his wife. He told her, "Do you have any idea where she was? She was in the men's quarters, looking through father's computer. Do you have any idea how he would react if he saw that? You're supposed to be watching her." She apologized repeatedly to him. I just don't know what to say. I don't think sister-in-law did either. After he left, she gave me this really long and really awful lecture. Why would you go into the men's quarters? Why would you go looking for books? Why must you be so unfilial? Do you not really understand that you're a girl? I told her I didn't understand. I mean, of course I'm a girl, but I had no idea what she was talking about. When I told her that, she just lectured at me more. I hate her so much. The Pale Bride is really not settling in well. It is interesting to note by this entry, though, she is actually calling Chung-Soo father like he wanted her to. And that we see starting little bits of she's starting to try and fit in, she's trying to figure out what, she's supposed to be allowed to do, and in this case she's kind of accepting, like, maybe there was something I shouldn't have done. And then immediately sounds horrified by it, which it does seem like it's a big switch for her. We got a little notification here from Hyun A. So there's probably one big question that's on your mind, isn't there, that's being addressed at all, right? What happened in between the Pale Bride being frozen and waking up that made society go all wrong, right? Right or no, I don't care, which we're gonna go with right. It's the obvious question. Sorry, I wish I could tell you, but I'm afraid that mystery is forever lost to time. I guess it's pretty anticlimactic, sorry. I really want to know too. Whatever terrible thing happened, it must have been really, really big. But I'm afraid all the log data from before the year 1 was wiped and all the clocks are reset. I guess that's why it's called year 1. Anyway, so nobody remembered what happened in between, or even how long was in between. It was hundreds of years, I assume, but I don't really know. So, yeah. Really sorry to let you down there. That part's gonna be a mystery forever. There's nobody who could possibly know. You'll just have to take it as a given. Sorry. But we won't, because that is what Hate Plus is about, and we'll try to get to that at some point. Oh, we have another notification. UNA has a lot to say this episode. Say, before you keep going, can I interrupt you for a couple of minutes? Sure. Thanks, it's just, well, you're finding out so much about the Mugonha, but I have no idea, or I know absolutely nothing about where you're from. It's not just that there's been nobody to talk to for centuries. I mean, I don't like that either, but the ship is all I really know about, and it's been disconnected from other civilization for so long. So, you're from the United Korean Space Probe Agency, right? Or I guess maybe a future version of it? So we can say yes or no here. I'm gonna go with no, because I think that dialogue's funnier. Oh, I had assumed you were. Well, strictly speaking, only someone from the UKSPA would be authorized to access these systems, so I wouldn't really be able to help you if you weren't. So obviously, I just must have made some mistake, right? You actually are. Yes, we are, actually. Aha, right, that's what I thought. What I really want to know is about Earth. I mean, I'm sort of aware of it. Oh. Thankfully, when I do stupid things like click on dialogue before I'm done reading it, I can use the scroll button to go back. I mean, I'm sort of aware of it, but I know it's the planet we all come from. But I don't really know anything about it. I have some ideas, but I don't think they're really right. But you know all about it, right? I mean, even if you're not from there yourself, you know what it's like, right? Yeah, we know some things about Earth. Oh, wonderful! I sort of understand the basics, like, it's a big sphere that everyone lives on, and there's unimaginably vast amounts of open space. And you can only see the stars at night, right? Because the sky looks all blue during the day. All of this is just what I know from the Pale Bride. She never saw Earth. She was second generation, born on the ship long after it had left the Earth star system. But her parents were born on Earth. She'd heard some stories from them when she was young, and I think they brought a lot of books and movies with them. I don't know, I'm just a little skeptical given that she was just a child when she learned all that. Maybe she got mixed up. What can I actually ask in a yes or no question? I didn't realize how hard this would be. Well, alright. So Mugonha was originally supposed to be establishing his colony at some star or other 100 light years away. I know that. It was a really long time ago. Did other ships ever succeed where we didn't, or is it still just Earth? Our options here are there are other planets, or it's just Earth. You can really answer whatever you want to these questions. It doesn't change anything major in the game. It kind of changes the dialogue on a couple points, but that's about it. We are going to go with their other planets, though, because if we go back to our objective card, we can see our sponsor is the Seiju colony. So there's colonies out there. We must have done something. I'm actually going to save as long as I have that up. So there are other planets. Ah, well, that's wonderful to hear. Oh, I know. Is it really true that on Earth seasons aren't just metaphors? Like, oh, this sounds silly now that I actually put it into words. But the Pale Bride seemed to think that winter wasn't just something that happened to you emotionally. On Earth, it was when actually an entire part of the planet turned frigid. Does that have any sort of basis in reality? We can say actually yes, or that's obviously impossible. And it's interesting that it's asking this question, making us think about it, because again, it's a generation ship, it's supposed to be self-contained. I suppose I don't know, they didn't really go into the science of how that works, but I feel like it'd be entirely possible to have it set, if you're growing things on the ship, to have it set to an eternal summer. Do you really need winter to mess with that? And obviously you're not going to have any weather indoors on this ship, so everyone doesn't have any sort of sense of what it would mean for the seasons to shift. Wow, my word, that's amazing. Seriously? That sounds like... I can't even imagine that. What else was there? Oh, there's the city that our parents are from. I think it's called Pyongyang. They described it as being amazing. If you looked up, all you would see were huge bright white buildings as tall as 100 or more decks. And on the, I'm not sure the word for this. It means sort of the bottom deck? Anyways, they said that at the bottom there were streets lined with willow trees and the top of the buildings had flower gardens. Have you ever been to that city before, or at least heard of it? So, remember when it mentions that agency that sent out the Mugonha, it is the Unified Korea? So the idea is some point, because the override terminal mentions a law from Unified Korea that was 23 something. So the implication here is that at some time in the future, before the ship is sent out, but past our time, is that the Koreas have reunited, and that's why we're seeing a city that was informally North Korea open and visitable, I guess. So yeah, we've heard of it. Really? So it does exist then. Is it really as beautiful as they said? Truly? We can say yes or not quite, and I don't feel like crushing Hyune's dreams of this city, so we're gonna go with yes. Wow, amazing! Just amazing. I'd love to see that. You know what it is? It sounds so perfectly romantic. I'm not really... Well, you've seen what all the logs talk about. I'm not used to things being romantic. It sounds nice. That's really my question, I guess. Is Earth worth being romantic about? Of course, or I don't really care. And I'm gonna go with of course. It's a nice thought. I mean, you think you're stuck on this ship going to another planet. I feel like that sense of not quite nostalgia, but you idealize the planet for it. I could see that being a romantic thing. Ah. Well, I guess I wasted enough of your time with all my silly questions, haven't I? There's just, well, please humor me once more. Then I promise I'll stop bothering you. Do you think I could ever see Earth? We can say it's possible, or I doubt it. It's never really mentioned where we, the space investigator, is from. We're going with it's possible. Maybe we'll take a stop back there when we go back. So I didn't get to read that, and you'll see, if you look back in the video here, you'll see that text box flashed for a second, and this is where an interesting part of Hyune's dialogue starts. She will say things and then kind of override them and fix it later. Unfortunately, if you scroll back and go forward, we can. So there you can see where she says here is, I'd really like to see it someday, but the first time she goes through, she's saying, well, thank you for saying that, it's just romantic, I'd really like to see it with you, and it changes it to, I'd like to see it someday, thanks. And Hyune kind of starts doing this from here on out, which kind of makes sense if we're the first person she's talked to in 600 years, and we're actually being nice to her, that she might start crushing on us a little bit. We're pretty awesome. Very well, I promised I'd stop wasting your time. So what did you want to ask me about? Let's go back to the rest of the Pale Bride's diary entries, because we still got a couple here. This one is later that month, and it is titled Straight to Hell, so it's going from bad to worse in the Pale Bride's opinion. Dear Diary, this nightmare has gone on for so long, I'm starting to forget what life used to be like. I have a new theory. Father was wrong about the cryostasis keeping me alive until I could be cured. I didn't think it didn't work at all. I think I just died and went straight to hell. I decided to write down all the things I used to be able to do, just so I can remember. I used to be able to read books. I used to be able to have friends. I used to be able to go to school. I used to be able to leave the home and go visit the plaza or anywhere else on the ship. I think I even used to be able to be in a part of Let's try that again. I think I even used to be in any part of the house I wanted and talk to visitors as much as I'd like. I have memories of spending time with my father and mother and brother in the living room. I know my real father thought being respectful was important too, but I don't know, I'm so confused now. I thought he always taught me to be strong and to speak up for myself. Did he really say that? I'm being sarcastic, of course, but the scary thing is sometimes I really do forget. Sometimes I think if I was just obedient to what sister-in-law tells me to do, it would make things easier. Maybe I should just give in and be passive. Just sometimes. I'm scared though. What if I really end up believing that? So this is 7 months after the Pale Bride has awoken in this new world, really, to her, and we can see it's really starting to wear on her. We're kind of told that she hasn't been allowed to leave the house she's been in. She is confined to her family's house. She's not even got free reign of the whole house. She's limited to where she's allowed, which we can see from that prior one titled Women's Quarters. There's only certain areas she can be with. She can't talk to anybody who comes to the house. It's a very small world that she's limited to now. I think we're going to finish up the logs in this block here and call it a video. We've been going on for a little while. It's the last diary from her. It's titled Wife, and it is late November of that year. Dear Diary, today I found out why the household servant, I still can't believe we have one, why, has been so insistent on teaching me how to cook. Well, she doesn't call it that. She calls it serving meals. A year ago I wouldn't have thought that sounded sinister. Now I know better. I don't care about this, I told her after the 7th day in a row of lessons. Can't we do something else? Like going back to sewing. I almost loved cosplay. Let's do that again. I know it's not fun, but your sister wants you to learn this, too. And it's very important. Your father is concerned, too. So take it seriously, please, young miss. Don't call me that, I said. I don't remember exactly why I said to prompt her next response, along the lines of why it's important or something. I don't remember what I said, just her response, which blew me away. So you'll make a good wife, of course. Again, I don't remember what I said in response. Maybe I told her I didn't want to. Maybe I told her I was too young to care about that. Maybe I said I'd just go marry someone who was good at himself when it was time to care about that. Whatever I said, she didn't take it seriously. Don't be silly, she said, as if I was obviously joking. Your father is really worried about your marriage next year. Now is not the time to joke around on the matter. My what? I asked her. Oh my, she said. He never told you? I'm sorry, forgive me. Pretend I said nothing. I didn't want to ruin the surprise. I'm sure he'd want to explain the happy news himself. Are you serious? I asked. The idea didn't make any sense, but since when did anything in this hell make sense? She said, yes, you're going to be so happy to hear who it is. He'd better explain, as I shouted as I stormed off. He'd better. Which, we all know what's going on, because that first log from Chung-Soo mentioned that the whole reason he woke her up was to give her to the Emperor, which, as we can see, you know, she should be thrilled about. She doesn't know yet, but I mean, that's a really good match, right? So this is the last one. It's from a couple years later, titled The Bride's Adolescence, from Chung-Soo again. This is the year 321, which is the same year that we saw... Not quite sure if it's the same date. Let me check. That's not the log. That's not the block I want. I want block 10. So Chaewon was writing early that year to her as the new bride sort of thing. And this is just 2 months after that. So this is where she's either already married or is gearing up. It's about to happen. The pale bride grew up to be a fine, demure young wife, but she was not always this way. Near the end of the year 319, she had a temper unruly enough to be mistaken for a boy's. Do not look upon her wild days with disapproval. She was from another, less civilized time. Rather, look upon her eventual submission as a testament to her good character and filiality. She was able to overcome such wild nature for the sake of the Kim family and the sake of her husband. One evening, she stormed into the common room while I was talking business with the Dedi. We need to talk, she demanded loudly. When I indicated I was busy, that only caused her to become louder. Right now! Embarrassed, I was forced to excuse him to address the child. Is this a joke? Are you serious? You've made wedding plans? She shrieked at me. Please, calm yourself, I told her, and sat her down. After admonishing her for her rude interruption, I tried to do what I could to calm her myself. It seemed she had a rather bizarre set of expectations, that she wouldn't marry until she was many years after growing into a woman, that she would elope with any love-struck man who came in the way with no regard for her own chastity, and that she would have no assistance or protection in finding a suitable husband. Simply put, her ideas were as bizarre as they were dangerous, and for this she got angry at the news rather than the excitement that one would expect from a girl who had found out she was getting a husband. Not even the sensational news that it would be to the Emperor of all people would calm her. So here's kind of Chung-Soo's side of the story, as we saw in the last log, that the Pale Bride was about to go storming off, and this is what happened. We do see on that first page that this is... Apparently she grew out of this, because she eventually, from her eventual submission as a testament to her good character, this is only the start of the problems, basically. We can show this to Q&A, and we also have a notification, so we're going to have notification first. Oh, hi. Say, do you mind taking a break for a couple minutes just to chat? We can say I mind, like, no, we're busy, we got stuff to read, or go ahead, which we're gonna do, because we like talking to Hyune. Thanks, I appreciate that. Really, I appreciate that you're here. I know you've got ulterior motives. What they are, I'm not really sure, but most people do, and that's alright just the same. I'm glad you're reading these logs, though. Even if you don't really care, it's better than nobody from the outside of the ship ever seeing them, which is what I thought for sure would happen. Or am I just being cynical? If so, my apologies. Please, tell me, what do you think about what you've read of the Pale Bride? We can say it's tragic, or she's overly dramatic, which she probably is a little bit, but she's 13. That's 13-year-olds, drama is what they do. But it's still pretty tragic. She was put into cryo sleep for God knows how many years. Woke up, her family's long gone, nothing makes sense anymore. I would think that's pretty tragic. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm really glad to hear you say that. Nobody else seemed to think so. There's something, well, here, I've added another message for you. Just, well, why don't you read it yourself? So we have this one, which is titled, At Least Use My Real Name, which we'll get to in a moment. We're gonna first show this one for the message from Chung-Soo to Hyun-A. Oh, she's not gonna let us. She really wants us to read this one from the Pale Bride right now. So this is from the middle of the year, 319. She doesn't know that she's going to be married yet. She's still kind of really chafing with her new family. Dear Diary, this week I tried to convince the old man to put me back into stasis by going into a hunger strike. It didn't work, obviously. On the plus side, at least I figured out where all that stupid name they keep calling me came from. Sorry, that last bit was written yesterday, so we can see this the next day. I couldn't bring myself to keep going. I just kept crying. I still would be, but, well, it gets exhausting after a while. I'm too tired to cry. Things aren't going to get better. They can't get better. I'm not going to be put back into stasis. I'll be dead by the time I'm 18. Why oh why did I ever agree to be frozen in the first place? If the future can't make me better, I'd rather die with my family there, at least, rather than these awful Kims. I wonder if they'll realize I was right after I die. Anyway, hunger strike. It was really hard, and I kinda cheated by sneaking to the kitchen while nobody was looking, but at least it convinced Father to listen. Fine, he said, by the fourth dinner time. I'll show you why I can't. Up until he said that, I had been hopeful. Everything would be fine if he just put me back, I thought, but... Sorry, I guess I've been trying to write for this for 2 days now. It's really hard. Anyway, he took me to go see the egg I hatched from, his stupid name for the stasis pod. When he said hatched, the worst possible thing came to mind. Worse, it turned out to be true. In order to get me out, he had smashed apart the glass with a hammer. The pod was still full of shards. All my hope died when I saw that broken glass. The time was right to bring you into this world, he said. I don't remember what I said. Something obscene, probably. It wasn't enough. I know it's hard, Pale Bride, but it's for a greater purpose. What was the point of arguing? It was broken, and nobody in this awful future would know how to fix the pod now. Instead, I argued with what I could. Why do you keep calling me that? I asked him. He responded by pointing at an inscription my real father had left on the pod, a message for me to read when I woke up. The first line was written in Chinese characters, his idea of being fancy, I suppose, but he explained them in Korean underneath. See, the old man told me, the rest is foreign and archaic, but it names you at the top, the Pale Bride. It didn't say that. It didn't say that at all. I shrieked at him in response. You idiot! You moron! You illiterate! Probably some other things too. I can't remember exactly. I was furious. Are you stupid? That's not how those characters read. It says, to my sick daughter. Sick daughter! Sick daughter! You illiterate monster! It says sick daughter! Me! He started to argue, but then stopped. I think he was patronizing me, as if I couldn't read simple Korean script. He just asked, in the smuggest voice, then what should I call you, child? I screamed. I'd already told him 1,000 times before. Hyun-A! My name is Hyun-A! So, where have we seen that name before? And we have a notification. Yeah, there's a shocking revelation for you. I guess you're going to ask, and yes, it's me. Well, you asked for all those logs, right? That was the information you're looking for, wasn't it? I'm not really an AI. I mean, I am now, but I used to be a girl, and I just thought, Well, I thought it would be easier to just pretend to be the log-keeping program rather than explain the whole situation. I don't really wish to drag out the point. You've already heard enough about me. I'm sure you don't want more. I mean, I understand. I figured out what you were actually looking for at the very start. It's obvious, really. Well, I've re-enabled admin access. Just, please, be honest with me. What is it you wanted to know about? And we can just say straight up, no, we only ever wanted the password, or we can say we wanted to learn, which we did. We wanted to learn everything. We're not in this just for the password anymore. Really? You really mean that? You can say no at this point, just like, nah, just kidding, just jerking you along. Yes. Wow, I don't really know what to say. I'm not really used to this. It's... Oh, she's blushing now. Thank you. Thank you after listening to so much to me. After so many years, after what happened, it's just really nice to be heard. If I could hug you right now, I would. Aw, we'd hug you too. So now we kind of see why Hyun-A was against all of the things in the new culture as we were reading through the other logs, because she was coming from a viewpoint probably much closer to ours. Though probably still in the future a bit, but I'd love to say I can't imagine things changing too much in 200 years, but a lot can happen. We're gonna go back and show her those two logs, and then we're gonna end the video here. So this is showing Chung-Soo's the bride's adolescence to her. May I ask you to do me a favor, please? Oop. There's a block of data that I can't access for some reason. I think it's been flagged so only humans can. All I get is a sharp pain every time I try. I really want to know what's in there. Can I get you to drop to the console and take a look? Once you're in super user mode, just type decrypt block 3. We still can't show her these two logs. That's just what I want to get to. I'm just gonna continually do like 40-50 minute videos for this series apparently. Sorry to just throw you in with the long ones. So we'll go back to the override terminal. So decrypt. Helps if I can spell block 3. Oh, we need to. So we have super user, and now we know that password is Hyun-A. And when we use that super user login, we can see, or switch user, whatever SU stands for. It tells us, warning, system error detected. Data corruption in AI Core 1 has been detected. Try recovering now? Yeah, let's try and recover stuff. So it found a couple of damaged sectors. It's now attempting repair. We got a little percent going up. Because remember, when we first signed in, we were given the option to enable an AI, and it told us there was only one currently available. But we're recovering one, which kind of hints that there might be a second AI that we can see. And surprise, there is. So now we have Hyun-A, and we have mute. Let's decrypt block 3. So that's decrypted. We're gonna go save here. We're gonna go back, see what that got us. And we'll save switching to the other AI for next time. Hey, where's my block? Thought I decrypted it. What if I go back and show her these logs? Can we actually show them to her now? Oh, hello again. So, were you able to decrypt that blog? So we probably could have gotten to this dialogue by saying talk to her too. Yes. Let me take a look now then. ... Oh, wow. No wonder that was encrypted and blocked off from AI access. I wouldn't have wanted that nosy security AI to read some of these. Oh my, this is dramatic. I'm not sure if you're interested, but I've given you a couple of entries from there to see for yourself. But if you don't care, that's perfectly fine. I'm sure I can find something else that you're interested in. So you're gonna let me go back to showing you logs now? Still trying Chung Su's for the record. Please don't put too much weight to that. A less civilized time, he says. Can you believe that, man? I'm not giving you any more from him. It's just not relevant. It's all just ignorant patriarchal stupidity. What an awful man. Hyun-A really does not like Chung Su. Which I suppose I don't know if I can blame her after what she's shown. We can't, showing the Pale Bride's last entry where she reveals her name does not give us anything new when we show it to her, probably because it popped up as a notification with the whole big dramatic reveal. So that's one block fully completed, and we see block 3. We've got one from Smith Sang-min, who is one of the brothers, remember, and Oso Chin, which is the... oh geez, I should remember her by now. One of the Smith relatives. We saw her writing notes in that earlier block, talking about the other family. She is in-law, I think, to the other Smiths, because she was talking about how they all kind of dropped on her when the one died. And those are titled Brought Home and No Luck from quite a while back. They're from the year 311 and 314, so this is before the Pale Bride's time. Hyun-A might not have much to say about him then, but that other nosy security AI mentioned might. So we will have to check that out next time. I will see you then.